Okay, let's start off with going through this assignment. So define the following terms. Sustainable development, so that just means your matter doesn't run out, your energy source doesn't run out, and it doesn't pollute the environment. That's the biggest thing with sustainable. Geothermal energy is source of energy from radioactive decay within the center of the Earth, the core of the Earth. Yeah. Tidal energy, the source of it is from gravity, the moon, and the pull of the moon and the sun. Describe the energy transformations that occur for the following. So geothermal starts off as nuclear potential, turns into heat, turns into kinetic energy of the steam, and then turns turbines and turns into electrical energy. Tidal energy starts off as gravitational potential energy, and then it moves into kinetic energy of water, which turns a turbine and turns into electrical energy. Explain the classification of the following as renewable or non-renewable. So coal is non-renewable. Fission is non-renewable, because once we run out of fission, uranium-235, we can't make any more. So that's non-renewable. Fission of isotopes of Earth's core. So this will happen forever and ever and ever. So this is renewable. So this is geothermal is renewable, and movement of water in the ocean's tides is renewable as well. Renewable is kind of a bad term because it's like we're not making more of it, but it means that it won't run out. Rank these from most sustainable to least sustainable. So most sustainable would probably be tidal energy. It's not very practical because it doesn't work in very many places, but it's super sustainable. It's this water moving back and forth from the tides, creating energy, no emissions, no drilling into the ground, nothing like that. And then geothermal would be right up there as well as very sustainable. It's not going to run out. And then the next most sustainable would be nuclear because it doesn't pollute the environment the same way that coal energy does, and the coal would be the least sustainable because it creates acid rain, it creates global warming, things like that. So yeah, coal least sustainable for sure. Okay, so let's go through these sample diploma questions. Sustainable development encourage the increased use of energy sources that are A, renewable, or B, renewable. And for the energy efficiency, so we want increased energy efficiency. So it looks like A is the correct answer. The energy generated by a particular country is represented in the pie chart. So the total percentage that's renewable. So this is not renewable. This is not renewable. This is not renewable. Yes, this is renewable. Wood is renewable. This is not renewable. So B, 16% would be the correct answer. One disadvantage using tides to generate electrical energy is, no, we don't need to flood agricultural land. There is no thermal pollution. It doesn't heat up the water. Yeah, it would cost a lot to construct, and we don't use any of those. So C is the correct answer. And any of these, they're expensive to construct, so that could be a downside. Disadvantages of a particular energy producing technology. Particulate matter, sounds like coal. Contributes to climate change, sounds like coal. Contributes to acid deposition, sounds like coal. Relies on non-renewable, sounds like coal. So the answer is A, coal. Which two positions of the Earth and the Moon create the greatest tidal variation? So this would create bulging like this, and this would also create the bulging like this. So you'd have very high and low tides, but the moon would cause bulging like this, and the sun would cause bulging like that. So they'd sort of cancel each other out, so there wouldn't be great variation, right? Same thing, you get the sun pulling like that, and the moon pulling like that, so they wouldn't cancel out. So this one, they're working together. So 1 and 2A is the correct answer. Okay, so this is our last lesson, solar energy. Let's get it done. So describe the environmental impact of developing and using various energy sources, solar, wind, biomass, hydro. Contrast the proportion of solar energy that creates winds and drives the water cycle with a small proportion captured by photosynthesis, and describe the functioning of renewable energy technologies and assess their advantages and disadvantages, right? So we need to know advantages and disadvantage. Okay. So first type of solar energy that we're going to talk about is passive solar energy, and what these cats are doing is they are warming themselves using passive solar energy. So the word passive means that there's no input energy, right? The cats just lay there and they get heated, right? So the sun provides a lot of heat, so you can set up your house in the same way that these cats are using to heat themselves in order to get some passive solar energy. So what you want is you want the sun to heat you in the summer or in the winter. So here the sun is lower in the winter, and it's able to come in through these south-facing windows, because that's the way the sun is facing. It goes through the windows, it heats the concrete floor, and would heat your house. Obviously you'd have some sort of like hardwood on top of the concrete floor, but the concrete floor absorbs the heat very well. So that would heat you in the winter. And you want to be cool in the summer, so you have this roof overhang here, so that'll block the sun in the summertime so that it doesn't get in through your windows there. So that's passive solar energy. You design your house for the sun to heat you, and it requires no input energy in. So some more active solar heating include a solar heating collector. This absorbs energy from the sun and pumps it through a heat exchanger. So you might have something on your roof here, and these look like solar panels, but they're not solar panels. They are heat pumps. So you pump antifreeze liquid through here, the sun heats it, and then it goes through a heat exchanger, and you use that to heat your house. Okay. Yeah. So earth energy systems are another one that can work year round, and this, instead of having the sun heat on the roof, you use the ambient heat of the ground. So you pump the antifreeze through the ground, and the ground year round stays about 5 degrees Celsius. So you use that heat from the ground to heat things. So that's an earth energy system. So photovoltaic cells are becoming more common. Photovoltaic cells are solar panels. So you'll see photovoltaic cells, you'll see solar panels, you'll see both of them, and they convert EMR directly into electrical energy. And that's the great thing about solar panels, is there's not very many energy conversions, right? You have EMR straight into electrical. Great energy conversion there. So here's a couple videos. I have 3 videos here that show just new ideas that you can do with solar energy. So this first video is about solar roadways and the possibility of that. It doesn't work that well because it would be really expensive, but the next 2 are more realistic ideas that are happening with solar roofs, and they're Tesla's company with solar roofs, so we'll watch a couple videos on that.
Solar freaking roadways.
What are they?
They're solar freaking roadways.
What do they want from me?
Well, they're solar freaking roadways. Okay, so actually this time, what is it? It's technology that replaces all roadways, parking lots, sidewalks, driveways, tarmacs, bike paths, and outdoor recreation surfaces with solar panels. And not just lifeless, boring solar panels, smart, microprocessing, interlocking, hexagonal solar units. No more useless asphalt and concrete just sitting there baking in the sun, needing to be repaved and filling with potholes that ruin your axle alignment on your sweet ride, bro. These are intelligent solar panels. Replaced a panel at a time if damaged or malfunctioning. They're covered with a new tempered glass material that has been designed and tested to meet all impact, load, and traction requirements. Oh, and did I mention that they're also solar panels? They generate electricity, they generate capital, they pay for themselves, and they keep paying more because we're not gonna run out of sun for like 15 billion years. That lowers the cost of energy, unlike those bills in the mail that keep going up. And it's clean energy. Everyone can theoretically drive an electric car with no pollution and a minimal carbon footprint. Can you imagine how good our cities would smell? How much healthier we'd all be?
Excuse me, young man, am I being led to believe that this thing is some sort of thing?
Yes, it's a thing, a real thing. And clean energy is only its primary function. Grab a notepad, because this is where it gets interesting. For those in the north, the panels use energy they collect to power elements to keep the surface temperature a few degrees above freezing. They're heated. No more ice and snow on roads causing traffic delays, accidents, and injury. No more shoveling your driveway and sidewalk. No salt corroding your car or wasting tax money on snow removal. And you can ride your bike or drive your motorcycle all year round.
Whoa!
Every Every panel has a series of LED lights on the circuit board that can be programmed to make lanescape designs, warning signs, parking lot configurations, whatever. These roads never have to have lanes repainted, just reprogrammed to whatever we choose or whatever works best. Imagine a highway road lighting up ahead of you, how much safer it would be to drive at night. There'd be improved visibility for pilots landing on solar landing strips. Imagine walking onto a solar recreation court and choosing a sports configuration. Want to play basketball? Cool. Kids want to play hopscotch and foursquare? Awesome. Ball hockey? Done. And with LED lights under your feet, it's gonna look like freaking Tron out there. But real, because this is the real world. Whoa. But these panels are also pressure sensitive, so they can detect when large debris like branches or boulders have fallen onto the road, or if an animal is crossing. It can warn drivers with LED text to slow down for an obstruction. I'm very, environmentally conscious. Good, because solar roadways use as much recycled material in their production as possible. Plus, the roadways have two channels that form what's called a cable corridor that runs concurrently with the roadways themselves. One part houses electrical cables, meaning power lines, data lines, fiber optics, and high-speed internet, which replaces the need for telephone poles and hanging wires that can be damaged during storms, causing power outages, or become extremely dangerous if severed either as fallen live wires or buried cables. The other channel captures and filters storm water and melted snow, moving them either to a treatment facility or treating them on-site, greatly decreasing the amount of pollution that enters our soil, lakes, rivers, and oceans. I'm kinda broke, bruh. Yeah, no kidding. The economy is in the toilet. Do you realize how many thousands of jobs this could create and sustain? Talk about a hypodermic adrenaline shot to the heart of the manufacturing and infrastructure sector. And it pays for itself. They're solar freaking roadways. I have concerns about the future. Is this thing even possible? I told you, yes. Solar roadway technology was invented by engineering couple Julie and Scott Broussard in 2006. Two of the sweetest people in the world who met when they were 3 and 4 years old. Listen to these two.
Hi, we're Scott and Julie Broussard, inventors of solar roadways.
We met in the 1960s when we were 3 and 4 years old.
These wonderful, intelligent people want to begin manufacturing a technology that can power the future of the whole freaking planet. They were awarded a contract from the Federal Highway Administration to build 2 prototypes, which are now complete. They're too humble and wonderful to yell at you over the internet, so I'm gonna do it. You need to know about this technology. You need to get behind it. You need to share it with everyone you know, because this is actually happening. Whoa!
The Tesla solar roof, fully unveiled in August, combines ordinary roof tiles with solar panels that look exactly the same. Upon initial inspection, the Tesla solar roof isn't much different from an old-school solar panel. It might even seem a little bit worse. It's expensive, doesn't produce as much electricity, and one analysis by EnergySave found that a Tesla roof on a 3,000 square foot house costs $25,000 more than regular solar panels and produces only 77% of the power. So why is the Tesla roof a good idea? What keeps it from being the Apple Watch of roofs? Because it's actually a roof. That's right, the Tesla roof isn't a series of tiles that get installed on your existing roof, they are the roof. That significantly lowers the overall cost and works out as a better long-term deal to buy the solar roof over a roof with solar panels tacked on later. By integrating solar technology into structural material, the solar roof will cost just $21 per square foot, and unlike any roof on the market, it never has to be replaced. While the connectors are built to last well over 30 years, Tesla CEO Elon Musk is actually offering a lifetime guarantee for every solar roof, further lowering the cost. Musk doesn't plan on having to foot much of the bill though, considering their testing puts the roofs through a veritable roof hell and resulted in tiles that can survive this little stress test. All told, the tempered glass is about 3 times stronger than slate or asphalt. Aside from saving the environment with renewable energy, the solar roof can actually save you money, if you live in a state with cheap installation, good tax credits, and lots of sun. In California, installing a solar roof on an 1,800 square foot property could save you $39,900 over 30 years. Of course, a similar sized roof would only just break even in some states. It may seem weird to buy a roof from a company that's best known for its electric cars, but then again, Elon Musk is also working on tunnels, rockets, Mars colonies, and brain-computer hybrids. If you want to live in the future, and you have the money, this is the obvious next step.
Take a look at the roofs of these 4 houses. Can you spot which one is covered in solar cells? That's a trick question, because they all are.
Tesla's first ever solar product is stunning.
It's not a solar panel. Instead, it's a range of 4 solar roofing materials that look virtually indistinguishable from high-end terracotta, slate, or slick modern asphalt shingles.
People really care about their homes. They love their homes, and they really want them to be better. And I think taking this approach, it can be.
Here's how it works. The top of the roof tile is made of textured glass. It looks like shingles from most angles, but it allows sunlight to pass through from above and into a standard solar cell with almost no loss in efficiency. Tesla says the glass is as tough as steel and can weather a lifetime of abuse from the elements. It can also be fitted with heating elements to melt off snow in colder climates.
Active solar tiles will cost about $42 per square foot, cheaper than traditional shingles with solar panels on top. But ultimately, you'll probably need more tiles to do the same job, so Tesla's total roof cost could be a bit higher.
You want to call your neighbors over and say, check out the sweet roof. It's like not a phrase that you hear often.
This represents the grand unification of Tesla's plans to become a sun-to-vehicle energy company. The idea is that you can run your home on solar power, store it in a slim battery that hangs on your wall, and then use that electricity to power your home and car. This combination is perhaps the closest we've ever come to affordable off-grid electricity.
The goal is to make solar roofs that look better than a normal roof, generate electricity, last longer, have better insulation, and actually have an installed cost that is less than a normal roof plus the cost of electricity. So then why would you buy anything else?
The solar roof was Musk's closing argument to shareholders before their vote to approve Tesla's $2.2 billion bid to buy the biggest U.S. rooftop solar installer, SolarCity, to make it all possible. There are plenty of reasons to be skeptical, but if Musk can pull it off, this trifecta of Tesla products, the solar roof, the Powerwall 2, and the Model 3 electric car, will be available in Tesla stores across the US by the end of 2017.
So advantages and disadvantages of solar. Advantage is it's very sustainable, very, very sustainable. The sun will shine forever, so they will work for a very long time. Another advantage to solar energy is it's very like you can get it, you can do it yourself. It's very very accessible, right? You can get solar panels installed in your house. Disadvantage is it's expensive. So it's expensive, and that's the biggest disadvantage is that it's expensive. Okay, hydroelectric. Do hydroelectric power use the sun's energy? Lots of people would say no, but it does use the sun's energy because once the water goes down here, how does it get back up there? Well, the sun heats it, right? The sun sends down heat, it evaporates the water turns into clouds and rains back into the upper reservoir. So without the sun, we wouldn't have any evaporation and we wouldn't have hydropower. So yes, it does use the sun's energy. Hydroelectricity powers 19% of the world and 5% of Alberta. So the reason we're so low is because we don't have a ton of raging rivers that we can use for hydroelectric power. So advantages, it's sustainable, right? It'll last forever, other than dam maintenance that you need to do. It's easy to do, the technology is there. Disadvantages is, the biggest disadvantage is you have to flood large areas. So you have to create this reservoir up here, which causes you to flood lots of land and can damage ecosystems. And that's the biggest downside to it. And it's expensive, but they're all expensive. Okay, wind energy. Does wind energy come from the sun? Well, what causes the wind? Well, the sun sends down heat, it heats the air particles move up, they move across, and then they move down. So the sun creates wind. So yes, wind is solar energy, and it's important that you know that. So more than 50% of the sun's energy is used to power the water and wind cycles, and less than 1% of it goes into photosynthesis. So you need to know this. This was one of the curriculum points that you need to know. Most of the sun's energy goes into the wind and water cycles. Very little of it goes into photosynthesis of plants. So differences in temperature due to differences in solar heating create wind, and in some places that can drive these powerful turbines. So the energy conversions that happen is that the sun, so EMR light from the sun turns into heat, and that heat turns into kinetic energy. The kinetic energy of the wind makes this turbine turn and creates electrical. Okay, those are our energy conversions. Advantages and disadvantages, again, it's sustainable, it'll last forever, really good energy source, it's renewable. Disadvantages to wind is that some people say those windmills are ugly. They also can kill bats and birds because they're attracted to the swooping and then they get killed by the blades. So that would be a big disadvantage. And then they can also be noisy. People think that the woo, woo, woo is a little bit noisy if you live close to it. Okay, so quite a few disadvantages with wind. Biomass. So biomass is using plant matter or agricultural waste as a source of fuel. So this involves burning wood waste from timber plants and using the energy from burning the waste. So anytime you're using garbage waste as a fuel, that's considered biomass. So here you can see in the picture is that you have trees, you make wood products, and then you have leftover scraps. You use that to power your plant, and then the CO2 goes back into the trees and plants, so it looks like it's completely green. It still creates CO2, which is bad, but at least you're burning garbage that would just decompose anyway, so that's good. So it can be collecting methane gas from composting organics and burning it as well, right? So we have, in Sherwood Park, we have organics bins. What they do is they let that decompose, they collect methane gas from it, and then they can burn that and use that as a fuel source. So using garbage as fuel. So these are different ways that we can do it. So from wood, manure, crops, and plant waste, you can produce ethanol from all of those. So you can produce ethanol, or you can just burn them directly as well. You can make biodiesel from cooking oil, right? And then you burn that. And then the big one that you need to know is that you can collect biogas. So anything that decomposes, human waste, manure, organic waste, creates methane, and then you can burn the methane as well. Okay? So you can either burn it directly, turn it into ethanol, turn it into biodiesel, turn it into methane biogas, and then burn it. So where do we get alcohol from? Plants. Mostly crops. Does this energy come from the sun? Yes. Is it renewable? Yes. Okay, so biofuel comes from the sun, and it's renewable because you can grow more crops in a human lifetime. So ethanol is currently blended with gasoline. So if you look at when you're filling up with gas, it says that 10% of your gasoline, up to 10%, can be ethanol, which makes it a little bit more renewable if you have 10% ethanol. Using cooking oil waste to make fuel for vehicles is biodiesel. So those grease bins at McDonald's, they collect those and they can turn that into biodiesel. So this is a bus powered by biodiesel. So advantages is you're using something that you normally throw out. So you're using garbage, which is good. A disadvantage is it only works for a certain amount of things. Like you can't power the world with biofuel, with biomass. Another disadvantage is it still creates CO2, which isn't great, but yeah. And then our last one are hydrogen fuel cells. So a fuel cell is a battery that can be refilled. So hydrogen fuel cells use hydrogen, oxygen as a fuel source and turn it into water and energy. So this is sort of how it works. So you add water and oxygen. So if you filled up at a gas station and you had a hydrogen fuel cell, you'd fill it with hydrogen and oxygen. They combine together and they make water, and they also make energy. So the cool thing about hydrogen fuel cells is that if you had an exhaust from a hydrogen fuel cell, the only thing that would come out of there is water. So it just make water. So it seems too good to be true. Why don't we use hydrogen fuel cells? Well, the main reason that we don't use hydrogen fuel cells is to create the hydrogen and oxygen that we need is we need to break apart water. And this requires electricity. And where do we get our electricity from? Well, we get it from fossil fuels. So if you're using fossil fuels to break it down and then combining together and using that energy, well, you're not really saving any energy. You're still using fossil fuels. So yeah, like I was saying, how do we get hydrogen? We get it from the decomposition of water, and that requires electrical energy. Where do we get our energy to break it down? Fossil fuels. So how could we make fuel cells a possibility? Well, maybe if we didn't use fossil fuels to get our electrical energy, if we broke it down using solar, well, then that would be sustainable, and then we could power our cars on hydrogen fuel cells, and that would work. Okay, so that's it for this lesson, nice and short. I'll put an assignment and we'll go through the sample diploma questions tomorrow. Hey guys, I just wanted to go through this assignment and sample diploma questions. So let's do that. So define each of the following terms. So passive solar energy is just designing your house so that the sun can heat your home in the winter and not heat your home in the summer. It doesn't require any input energy at all. Earth energy systems is where you use the ambient heat from the ground to heat part of your home. So running a fluid through the ground, and the ground stays constant temperature deep enough all year round, and you can heat your home with that. And biomass is using garbage as fuel, waste as fuel. Describe the energy conversions involved in each of the following. So photovoltaic cell, you have EMR light energy as you're starting, and it just turns into electrical. That's it. Hydroelectric uses gravitational potential to start, and then it turns it into kinetic of the running water, and then electrical energy. Describe one way that you could use solar energy to reduce your household energy costs without purchasing any new equipment. So this would be if you got blinds, opening your blinds in the winter to allow sun to heat up, closing your blinds in the summer so your house doesn't heat up. Things like that would be like a passive solar energy system. Identify 4 main limitations and benefits with solar technologies. The main limitation is cost, and the benefits is a sustainable, renewable energy source. There's not a lot of energy conversions, and it's very attainable. You can get it now. Rank these from most sustainable to least. So most sustainable, I would definitely say, is solar panels. Photovoltaic cells is going to be our number 1 because it doesn't really have any emissions, any negative effects with it. Hydroelectric power would be great. It has the flooding. Hydroelectric and wind would be good. The wind has a negative downside of birds and bats it can kill, and this can flood ecosystems, but other than that, they're very clean, no energy sources, no emissions, I mean. And then biomass is pretty good. It still creates CO2, but it's using waste in a different way. And then I would say nuclear fission, and then coal would be the last one if I was to rank them. Okay, let's go through the sample diploma questions. So sustainable development encourages increased use of energy sources that are renewable and that energy efficient technologies. Oops, this is the wrong one. Sorry, I was like, we did this question before. I need the ones at the end, not at the beginning. Sorry, these are them. There we go. Okay, so in passive solar heating, the windows of a house function similar to that of the Earth's atmosphere. It allows some light through, but doesn't allow other light through, I'd say. So Earth's atmosphere, D, would be the correct answer, the best answer for this one. If ethanol, which is produced by fermenting plant matter from crops, is blended with gasoline, it won't help with biodiversity. Biodiversity means like more plants being grown. If we're growing crops, we're doing less biodiversity. It will reduce in greenhouse gases, and the reason why is if we burn, oops, we need oxygen. If we burn octane, which is gasoline, if we're balancing this, we need 8 carbons, 8 CO2, so we produce 8 CO2s. If we burn ethanol, and we're balancing them, right? It still makes CO2 and H2O, but if we're balancing it, we only make 2 CO2, so it would make less greenhouse gases because there's less carbons in there. Yeah, it's more sustainable. If we're using ethanol instead of fossil fuels, we're preserving Earth's natural resources. Yeah, it would reduce the amount of fossil fuels used, and we still combust it, so this one wouldn't work. So it's going to be 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is talking about a hydrogen fuel cell. If the hydrogen fuel cell described above became widely used to power vehicles, it is likely that carbon emissions, so this, we gotta read it. So one company is developing a hydrogen fuel cell. The fuel cell runs on hydrogen that is produced from a solar panel. Yeah, so that's really good. So we would definitely decrease our carbon emissions, and our reliance on oil would decrease as well. So D is gonna be our answer. Which of the sources numbered above produce negative byproducts when used to generate electricity? So this creates no negative byproducts, uranium fission does. With nuclear waste, gasoline, greenhouse gases, and natural gas greenhouse gases. So 3, 4, and 5 would all create negative byproducts. Methane gas is collected from decaying biological matter in a sludge tank, so it looks like it's talking about biogas. Right? They combust methane. So what we're talking about here is we're talking about renewable biomass, right? You can make, so it's talking about sludge, it's talking about like poop and stuff. So we can produce more poop in a human lifetime. We can produce more poop in a human daytime. So it's renewable and it's biomass because we're always going to make more poop. Which of the following rows identifies the approximate proportion of solar energy that creates wind and water cycles and the amount for plants? So this is just a straight up memorization. 50% of it, over 50% of it is used for the wind and water cycles, and then less than 1% of it is used for photosynthesis. Okay, which of the following rows identifies the missing term? So we have to find what links these all together. So our options are solar or renewable. So wind is renewable, but fossil fuels aren't. So it's not going to be renewable and non-renewable. So wind gets its energy from the sun, fossil fuels from the sun, hydro from the sun, coal from the sun, oil from the sun, natural gas. These are all solar energy sources. Okay, these guys here don't require the sun. Tidal can get it from the moon. Uranium was here since the Earth was made, so it doesn't require the sun. And then geothermal is that nuclear reactions going on in the Earth, so this is non-solar. So 1 is solar, and 2 is non-solar, so B is the correct answer. And it says, which of the following rows shows where tidal energy should be placed in the diagram and where biomass should be placed? So renewable, tidal is a renewable. And biomass is renewable because we can always grow new plants. So yeah, that's correct. And then originates from the sun. Well, tidal does not originate from the sun, but biomass does originate from the sun. So biomass is going to be in Q here because both apply. But tidal is renewable P, but it doesn't originate from the sun, so it's going to be P. So A is the correct answer. Which of the two technologies above include conversion of chemical potential into thermal? So that's going to be fossil fuel as chemical potential. There we go. And then biomass is chemical potential into thermal. So D. Match the technology numbered in the flowchart above to the type of technology it represents. So hydroelectric is gravitational. It starts off as gravitational. Chemical is a fuel cell. And geothermal is nuclear. So that'd be 3. Okay, and that's it. If you have any questions, let me know, and good luck on your quiz.